Okay. Another parent will come out. I've asked you parents to stand up as you talk, please. Thank you.
Now I'm nervous.
No reason.
I wanted to agree with Mrs. DeFazio. You have to know where your children are, what they're doing, and when they will be home. By the same token, you as an adult cannot run out to the store for 4 hours and not tell your children where you are. You have to tell them where you're going and when you will be home. If you're not home in time, then you call and you set the example. But you cannot start this when the child is 18 and suddenly has a car and you're a nervous wreck because he's got this car to drive. You have to start when they're 6, 7, and 8. You have to know where they are and what they're doing all the time. And it's not easy. It's hard work. It's a lot of hard work.
We do know that you know where your child is. We have another phone call here. Good evening, you're with us. Would you like to pose a question?
No, not so much a question. I wanted to make a comment in the form of a suggestion. I think that what needs to use and our town is a program that will teach teachers, parents, and perhaps even ministers, athletic directors, how to techniques for young people to use when peer pressure is being put on them. We can talk about parents being examples. We can give all of the statistics about drug abuse. We can talk about the ills of using drugs. And that all may register in their minds because most are bright, intelligent kids. However, when they get in the situation of peer pressure, it's a different world. And a lot of times, these kids just don't know what to do or what to say when they're under peer pressure. Say, being not cool, not in the crowd. And if we could come up with a program, I happen to be associated with an individual client of mine who's working on, or he has a program that he is doing, I believe on the collegiate level, and I think he also has a program for the high school level, where, you can teach adults who have young people on a daily basis, like athletic directors, teachers, parents, and teach them how to deal with peer pressure in a very realistic way. And I think this will equip the young people when they're out there by themselves in their own peer environment to deal with it. It's a different story when they're out there with their friends and they're in the presence of parents or people that are guardians or responsible for.
It's an excellent comment. May I ask you to do something? Could you send information that you have to me, Jim Nelson, here at the high school?
Certainly.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your call very much. Alicia, excuse me, Debbie, go ahead. Now I'm going to throw a question to Alicia.
One of the things I think that we're talking about, the parents in this room and the students in this room have good homes. The parents are here because they care about their kids. However, single parents who aren't here, they care about their children. There are children that care about themselves even when their parents don't. What they need is to learn how to say no. And the just say no slogan, it's too simple. It's just too simple. It's more complex than just say no, as the caller was saying. There is a program out there that teaches kids to say no to all those negative influences that we call peer pressure. The program, I use the program with first graders. First graders learn how to say no to simple things. Not drugs necessarily, but no to their friends when the friend says, let's go throw snowballs at cars. It starts there, how to say no just to simple things. Then we build up. By the time they hit 5th grade, they're learning how to say no to alcohol. Alcohol is one of the things that they have to learn to say no to at 5th grade. Sounds very early, kind of a surprise, but no, that's about the time that they all experiment and try it. The program's already out there. Programs exist today. One of the programs is called Here's Looking at You 2000. This district has that program. I don't know why you're not seeing it.
Well, maybe we are. Alicia, maybe you respond. Have you been exposed as you've come through the district to any of these programs?
Yes, I have. To the DARE program I have, and so my little brother and sister. I have to say that they're trying, but it's a matter of whether we students are listening.
I mean, that was my next question to you. Do you get the feeling that when programs like this are mentioned, or when someone talks with some of the students, that their attitude is one of laughing at rather than listening to?
Yeah, that's what it is. They get the attitude as far as who do they think they are telling me that I shouldn't do this. So.
Let me ask one more question of you before we kind of check with Bill chime in on this. Do you think that we can have success dealing with high school students in these areas?
I think that if we worked hard enough, and it can't just be one group of people working to do this. Like for instance, student council, we're trying to put together our Stand Tall program, which we already started out, we sent out surveys and everything to the students, asking them if they did drugs or if they drank and how much, or what they did. And if they were willing, if it was passed through the school board, to submit to a drug testing. So we had a pretty good response from there. Students who have either a drinking problem or an alcohol problem, or a drug problem, are willing, if they're addicted, they're willing to get help if they know that somebody is there. And I just think that maybe the administration should try and to focus more on these programs than they do as far as athletics. I mean, I'm not knocking athletics because I love it to death, but I think that I have to agree that maybe we do put too much emphasis on sports.
Well, maybe one of the good outgrowths of tonight will be that we can have a renewed interest in looking into some of these things and see what application we can make in the high school level, and of course, obviously, in the earlier years too. Chuck?
I'm sitting here and listening to some of the comments, and we have good programs concerning drug and alcohol. There are a number of different areas when we come under the topic of pressure, but perhaps what we need to do also is implement some type of a program on appropriate decision making. Okay, because all these things come down to these young people making a decision, whether it's going to be to have sex, to have a drink, to do drugs, to cut class or whatever. Perhaps what they really need is to be informed on how to make a good decision. We can push programs to say no, but why am I saying no? To get stoned on alcohol or get drunk or whatever, that obviously has some merit because the people are going for it. There is a feeling that's associated with it. There's a feeling that's associated with doing cocaine, or else we wouldn't have the people in the epidemics that we have right now with drug abuse and addiction. So perhaps what we need to do is teach the young people how to make a good decision. And perhaps we could start there.
My name is Jan Pierce, and I have a couple comments. One is, I don't think that our high school is any different than any other high school I've visited lately. We have a tendency, it's 1,700 students in our building, and it lends to peer pressure because the students are in close proximity to one another all day long. There are very few places in our building that a student can be an individual, have privacy, find security, talk one-to-one with someone, whether it is another person or whether it's a teacher or a cafeteria worker. But it's very, very difficult to find a place to be yourself. So therefore, they are performing all the time as teachers are performing in front of the classroom, teaching their lessons. I think that we really need to provide spaces for our students to be themselves so that they can experiment with their identity. I think they need to find people in the building who will listen to them. I think it would be a wonderful situation if each student had a team member with them, and maybe a faculty member or someone else that they could find, that they could speak to and to talk to, and to bounce ideas back on each other, and perhaps not in the classroom itself, because it's very difficult for a student to sit in a classroom and make a comment that's their individual comment. You know, they're always afraid of someone else listening to them. The whole class is there. The whole class is in the hallway with them when they go out. There's very few places. I just feel that I had heard a word, it's not my invention, but there's a word that had been bouncing around for several years now that I took to heart, which was called educare. That we care about our students, we care about them not just in the classroom, but everywhere in the building, and that student at any time of the day can go to someone and talk to them when they need to be talked to and need to be heard. I personally, I said to Jim 2 days ago that it is the things that have brought me pleasure in teaching and 21 years of teaching are the times when I didn't turn my back on someone and I listened to them. So I think that's what turns around peer pressure, and I think that's our prescription to get people off of drugs and alcohol.
Thank you very much, Jan.
My name is Jo England, and the comment I would like to make, plus the question, is not all of the youngsters succumb to peer pressure. There has to be the leader who sets the standards. And I would like any member of the panel to give me what you feel is a thumbnail sketch of the personality of the child who succumbs to the peer pressure, and what is the child like who says, you will do this because this is cool. What has formed these personalities, and why does one say, do as I do, and the other one says, whatever you do, I do?
I'll comment, and this is not really my field. I'm not a psychologist. But my own feeling is, you can't give orders until you learn to take them. I see parents arguing with little kids. The kid will ask, I want to do so-and-so. Mom says no. Then there's a 15-minute dialogue between this child and this adult about this question. The answer was already stated. I said, no. That's it. Now, if the child at 5, 6 can't get the point, it knows the answer, finished, okay, no more dialogue, how is he going to change at the higher level? At the same time, the child that has learned, no is, that's the answer. You may not like the answer, but that's the answer. The answer is no, you're not doing such and such. And has learned to take orders and follow direction, reaches the point where he can give direction. Leadership, and I think if you do any management course, is based upon learning. You learn to take orders and follow directions, and you eventually evaluate into a person that can give orders to other people. The child is raised. If he can learn directions and follow discipline and rules in the household at a young age, eventually he's a strong enough person on the outside. I know what no means. No means what my mom said or my dad said. No is, I'm not going to do it. And I'm the boss. And I'm the leader. I think that's where it is. It starts at home. I think these Just Say No programs should be given to the parents. Because the parents are the ones who have to learn to say no. How do you have a dialogue with a kid?
Yeah.
And you do, but I see parents all the time, they have dialogues. And they make excuses for the kids. They'll come in my job on a negative note, and they have this dialogue about, well, there's reasons why he broke curfew, or why he stole, or why he broke into somebody's house. There's no dialogue, there's no justification of it. You didn't do it because it was a rainy day, you did it because you wanted to. And you have to learn direction at a very young age, and you have to have that discipline. And as far as the comment about divorce, I've seen parents, I hold conferences in the majority of my cases. 3 kinds of conferences. 1, where only mom shows up, that's a waste of time. 2, conference dad shows up. Better, but you don't get a whole lot. 3rd kind of conference, both parents show up. And it has nothing to do with being divorced. Either they're your kids and you love them, and you care enough. If you two have problems with each other, that's between you two. That's nothing to do with your kids. Mom calls dad and says, your son is messing up and he's called to the police station. You both get together and you come, you rectify the problem. If the mother has custody and son does something wrong, she has a moral and an obligation to the father and to the child to call dad up and say, yo, son is causing a problem. And if the father is any kind of a father, he will get over there and rectify the problem. So, you know, you can work together. I think we like to make excuses for, you know, all these different reasons. People have to work together. And as far as the interaction, having time together, you can't have time together alone in school, but you can't have time alone in the job. You know, sometimes you have to search people out and to talk. But I think it all starts in the home. I think you have to have the basic foundation of how you raise, and I think it starts with the parents.
Okay. Mike, with the younger kids in the middle school, do you see some of the characteristics maybe that Mrs. England was asking about beginning to come out at that age level?
Popularity is real big at the middle school. Who's the best athlete, or who's perhaps maybe the star in the musical, or who's the best dancer at the dance, or who's been in school suspension the most. You know, it could go any way, so you have little cliques. I really believe what Chuck had referred to earlier. We try to, I'm not saying cut off mom and dad, but we try to hammer home with the 8th grade student that you are accountable for your actions. And if you fail my test, I'm not going to call mom and tell her that you failed the test. You're going to take the test paper home and you're going to show her. Because you're going to the high school next year, East Norton, Eisenhower, and Stewart, and there's going to be hundreds of students. And you have to start taking accountability for your actions. And, you know, the peer pressure, the groups, the cliques, we try to attack it a lot of ways. Your own example as a teacher, you don't teach morality, but you certainly show that to the child by your comments about things. We have a business partnership with Roar where we have mentors coming in and trying to talk to children. What are you going to do with your life? You're going to go to college? What are you going to do? We have this. We have the DARE program. There's opportunities there.
Would you say the peer leader has more self-confidence, or he doesn't have much, so he tries to get people to work off of?
It could be both. You could find one who really struts up and down the hallway, and you have to pull him aside and say, listen, this isn't your campus. And you find the others who are hiding their deficiencies in some way. But you still have to, you know, my goal isn't that they remember everything I teach them about history. My goal is that they become a motivated self-learner, that they can block everybody else out and focus on task. And I even use a little drill with them. I say, go home, and you'll know whether or not the boys came home with this. And I say, ask mom and dad to think back, get them nice and comfortable, start talking with them, set them up. And ask them to remember when they were in 8th grade. Remember how hard it was? Do you remember your social studies class? Do you remember your seat where you were sitting? And get mom and dad reminiscing. And do you remember who sat behind you and who sat across from you? And, oh, yeah. And then get them to rattle off names. You know, oh, yeah, Susie was here and so. And then ask them, how many of those people do they see today? I said, you'll be lucky if they see any of them, because they go on. As Officer Stewart said, you work the rest of your life. You're preparing yourself now. You go on. These people who you think are putting peer pressure on you, who you think are so important, you have to follow the crowd. You're not going to see them. You're not going to see them. You're going to go on and live your life. Sometimes you hit them. Other kids, they're not getting those hugs at home that Reverend Walk said, so they need that security at school. We do a little exercise. What are the 3 things important in your life? Family, school, and friends. Now, what order do you have them in? I hope it's family first, and I hope it's school second, and I hope it's friends third. And we evaluate that at the beginning of the year and the end of the year. And they write it down, they don't show it to me. And we look at it at the end of the year. Has it changed? Are you happy with it? And
does it change?
Some it does. You feel good. You see kids who come back and they talk about things they do with their family. They talk about school, and it's really neat. And I don't know. I was going to ask Mr. Nelson. We have a saying at middle school that all children are reclamation projects. No matter how bad they are, you can still save them by 8th grade. But do you feel that way when they get to the high school?